Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new episode of Kaiju Conversation. I'm your host, Elijah, and joining me, as always, the always lovely Rex.
Hello.
So, Rex, we're gonna kind of be doing a short one this week, but how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks. Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Oh yeah. Well, Rex, what have you been doing for the last 2 hours?
Uh, Watching Godzilla 2014 and trying not to fall asleep.
Hey, I relate to that on a personal level. Pretty sure that I dozed off like twice, but
Yeah, that train
I,
sequence,
I
man.
still saw the kiss of death. Um, and yeah, I saw all the good stuff about the movie. But yeah, so you know, we just watched Godzilla
Yep.
2014. I streamed it for us. We sat here. It was brightened, by the way, so we're not going to complain about the darkness to the extent of most
Hmm.
people. I'm still going to find a way to
I
complain
will
about it,
too.
but you know, it'll just be that way. But this week, on May 16th, we are going to be doing a retrospective, looking back at the film now at 7 years
God,
old.
how has it been that long?
It's been a while, too long actually.
Hmm.
I remember when that first came out.
Yeah.
The theater I went to, they had it was an older building. It was a lot smaller with smaller screens, and I remember it being my first time I went to that theater. And I get. By the way, we're getting right into this hot and heavy.
All right.
And it was a surprise. And now, 7 years later, that theater is now the headquarters for the company.
Really?
It's got one of the largest screens in the United States. It's I've seen like 100 films there, and it's just so weird what's happened since
Mm.
then.
My, I'm kind of the opposite where the theater I saw 2014 at is a theater that I just normally go to because it's the food is cheaper there. Like I saw Godzilla vs. Kong at a different theater to what I usually go to for my first viewing, and the food was like more than double the cost.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, the theater that I usually go to and saw 2014 at, that one is it's not very popular because it's it's an old theater. Like the screens are all dirty now. There's only like one there's only like one really big screen, and
Hmm.
they don't have any they only have standard format for the movie. They don't standard format in 3D. They don't have 40x, gold class, anything like that, IMAX or VMAX.
Yeah. All right. So, Rex, let me ask you
Mhm.
something. When the trailers first came out, did you, and the movie eventually came out, was it the film you were expecting, if you can remember?
Um, I would say yeah. I know that a lot of people had issue with. I know a lot of people expected the movie to be like a solo sort of dark movie where Godzilla was the bad guy and all that, but I I went in as a kid who liked Godzilla, loved movies like Final Wars, and was just looking for Godzilla to fight whatever those bug monsters were.
Yeah, I think it was about a month ago, I went back on the old Godzilla YouTube channel and I watched all the ads and all the promos, and it was so weird. Like it was the film felt like it was proud to be what it was. Like it was very serious and
Yeah.
very it had a memorable marketing
Hmm.
campaign. And I think part of that is to thank Bryan Cranston for his amazing
Yeah.
acting. and deliveries in that film, but it gave us something that King of the Monsters and GVK both failed at
Hmm.
with their. Uh, Now I will say Kong Skull Island did their advertisements well because the initial trailer um had some really serious music too that I thought worked
Hmm.
for that film.
Hmm. I honestly don't remember much of the Kong Skull Island advertising campaign. I didn't really get on the hype of that movie. I didn't even really know it was coming out. No, I did know it was coming out, but I wasn't really on the hype of that movie until near the end of the marketing campaign when I sort of realized that it was actually being marketed. I did not know there was a trailer for like a good like 2 months.
Oh yeah, I remember the Comic Con trailer,
Hmm.
and I love that Comic Con trailer. I'll send you a link to it after we're done here.
Oh, is that the
Um,
one with like the
but
lightning and all that?
no. This was like it wasn't the concept um trailer. It was the actual trailer that dropped at Comic Con in 2016.
Ah, I see.
Um, and I loved the music. I remember listening to it, and they clipped Samuel Jackson's and man will reign supreme or whatever he
Hmm.
says. They clipped that in like out of the movie into just audio clips.
Yeah.
Um, and it really gave you kind of a sense of, oh, this is a war between uh, the military and
Hmm.
Kong. And I thought it was really cool. I really enjoyed that part of it.
Hmm.
So going back to 2014 here, since that is the true star of this episode, even though we could pull a 2014 and only tease it to the very end. Um, but that wouldn't be a good
Yeah.
retrospective note, would it? So, Rex, initially when this film came out, what was your thoughts?
Um, when I saw Godzilla 2014 in theaters, I I loved it really. I was really blown away by just the monsters. I didn't I was too young to sort of like really complain about human characters and bad writing, bad acting, and things like that. I just came for Big Monster and was very satisfied with Big Monster.
I see. I think I shared a similar sentiment. Um, though I know initially I also was like, it's good and all, but Godzilla wasn't in the movie. That was my biggest gripe
I've never
back
actually had
then.
that issue with the movie, personally.
Well, I'm gonna get deeper into it whenever we review it.
Yeah,
But I'll just say that I don't think it knows how to do the lack of Godzilla right. Um, Terror of Mechagodzilla was the movie I would use as an example. But that's all I'm gonna say for now, as I will love to dive into that and explain why 2014 fails to Godzilla movie in the future.
hmm.
Uh, but I liked it, and I just had that problem with it, and I wish Bryan Cranston didn't die.
Yeah,
Those have been my longing critiques. Which watching it again, uh, just tonight, I kind of noticed that too. That Cranston has the best parts. Like the
yeah.
camera work is at its best with him. The dialogue is at its best. The acting, the delivery, like when he's there, the film is high quality.
Hmm. Yeah, and, and not only that, the film's actual emotional core, it's there with Cranston.
Mm-hmm.
They try to have it with Ford, but but for me, I never found I was never really able to connect with that character.
Yeah, and I there's something about Ford that just doesn't click.
Yeah,
I think it's Aaron Tyler Johnson's um inability to properly act.
yeah, he has a
Uh,
very limited range, in this movie at least.
mhm,
He
mhm,
somewhat pulls off being like happy at a couple points, but otherwise for most of the rest of the film, he's just got a sort of muted look to him.
mhm.
And I think it's really just his facial expressions.
That might be it.
If you compare him to Bryan Cranston can go from being calm and collected to looking very sad and on the verge of breaking down.
Mhm,
Whereas in a scene where he's talking to Bryan Cranston, he's meant to look sad, like he's got teary eyes, but all I could think during that was they've just put eye drops on him. They've just given him eye drops, and he's trying to move his head to seem like he's sad.
Yeah, when he's emotional, he doesn't feel emotional.
Yeah.
He's like me when I'm trying to cry in front of people. But yeah, I wish while we were watching it tonight, all I could think about is I would have loved to have watched a Hollywood Godzilla movie
Hmm.
that took place in 1999. It'd be a nice callback to 98, I think.
Hmm.
Set in Japan, following Joe Brody trying to keep his son safe and discover the truth of what happened at
Yeah.
his nuclear power plant. I
Yeah.
That sounds so cool to me. And I think with that, I kind of ruined 2014 for me because now I have
Yeah.
that idea in my head.
Honestly, when you mentioned that, that actually changed my view of them. Like when you mentioned that during when we were watching, that changed my view on a lot of
Mhm.
what comes after his death, and I'm like, it's like, bruh, this this is a gold mine. Why did you not use Bryan Cranston more? You've already paid him a lot to be here.
But you know,
Missed opportunities.
I think it was, and I think with time, I've noticed those missed opportunities more and more. Um, Especially as I've become a cold-hearted individual and just have slowly started to hate the MonsterVerse, minus Kong Skull Island, of course, and the King of the Monsters soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I wish, I wish it could have aged like a fine wine. I really do.
I think there are
Um,
some things
there's
about
some,
this movie that do age well. Things like most of the
yes,
effects and the sound design. There's flaws here and there,
hmm
but especially the sound design, amazing.
I agree.
And I actually think that the VFX and sound design will age better than King of the Monsters and GVK.
Well, right, because it's not trying to fit in random kaiju roars every blue moon,
Yeah,
uh, and it's not trying to be this stupid romp of a movie where two giant monsters are fighting. It's actually trying to make you interested in the sound.
yeah.
I think Ifukube, um, his spirit lived on the most in
Mm,
2014, but his presence was in King of the Monsters with his music. I think that's the way I would put it is that.
mm,
And I think the CGI looks pretty good,
mm.
but I think the final fight has slowly started to deteriorate just slightly.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Not a whole lot though.
Yeah, there are flaws. I'd say the most flaws are probably in that fight. But
Hmm.
even then, I don't think it looks bad by any means. I still think it looks really
Oh
good for
yeah.
the most part.
Hmm. I find it interesting. This is one thing that I don't know if I love, like, or hate,
Mm,
and it's the the cinematography of 2014. Gareth tried to make it where you could have recorded that on your phone,
yeah.
and that would be how he got the shot. I love that idea.
Mm,
I think that's a really cool, immersive idea.
mm,
But it's not been done again. It wasn't done in GBK. And King of the Monsters is taken to the level of, oh, you're actually, it's almost a POV shot. You're down as these giant monsters are fighting in the stadium.
mm.
I After that sentence, I just realized how stupid that final fight was. Oh my god. They literally had them fight in a stadium.
Mm.
Oh god. If my camera was on, I just face palmed really hard because I just realized, oh boy. But going back to, it's a cool concept. I really like it,
Mm.
but they've never replicated it. And with that style of, you know, cinematography, you can't necessarily do the awesome truck shots or the dolly shots or the wide lens
Mm.
uh in the air kind of pan shots. You can't really do that.
Mm.
So I don't know if I like it or hate it or love it.
Mm. There aren't really many like if any real wallpaper-esque type of shots in the film.
When it comes to the kaiju, at least the
Yeah.
Halo jump's got a nice little wallpaper scene, I think.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I do agree. There's not really anything else too wallpaper worthy.
Mm.
And looking at it at this point, 2014 feels very contained, self-contained.
Yeah.
Like they didn't do much, but they also set up a bit.
Mm.
And I don't know if I like where it went.
Mm.
Well, I certainly didn't like 20 King of the Monsters with GPK, but I digress.
Mm.
Which,
Yeah, it's you can tell that there were that they didn't quite plan a monster verse. I
mm-hmm.
imagine they had already intended on like doing on hey, if this is successful, let's do another one or another two.
I'm pretty sure because I know Godzilla 2 and 3 were announced like a week later or
Yeah,
something, or at Comic Con. Uh, and Gareth had already said he wanted to do more.
yeah,
And the reason they had it end that way is because they wanted to leave it open where, hey, we can do more.
yeah,
But if it failed miserably, if it failed to bring the Godzilla audience, if it failed to bring general audiences, they would have just said, okay, well, it works as a standalone movie, and Toho can do what they want again,
yeah,
which I respect
yeah.
that. It was aware of what it was going to possibly be, and I think that's admirable.
Hmm. But it is kind of funny looking in retrospect that the whole idea of Godzilla 2014 was, as Gareth Edwards put it, it wasn't supposed. The only science fiction thing really about the movie is the giant monsters,
Mm-hmm.
and that is really ironic in retrospective a certain Godzilla vs. Kong.
hmm Yeah, that's a good point. Which it reminds me of a lot of the Showa films,
Hmm.
not the ones where they go to space
Hmm.
or the ones with aliens, but like it's your everyday people.
Yeah.
Um, which I do like that part, but Godzilla is also inherently science fiction, and I feel like trying to avoid that is going to lead you down a path that's going to not work a whole lot
I don't
per
think it's
se. But
really a path that doesn't work. I just think it's a path that does it limits your options for where you can go. And though I don't 100% agree with where King of the Monsters or GVK go with the universe, I do at least appreciate some of their creativity,
yeah,
and I do kind of understand why they disregarded a lot of the tone of 2014.
hmm and I think it's nice though because it it leaves 2014 to be what 2014 wants to be.
Yeah,
It wants to be a serious film that's very grounded in reality, that has its lore. It tells you its lore, and that's that.
yeah.
Which I do like that part. I like it.
Hmm.
I just don't love it.
Yeah.
Which which is my sentiment with a lot of this film. I think initially I thought it was good, but over time I've just been like, "Hmm, it's okay.
Hmm.
I This flat has some decent scores. I like the Japanese flute they use in the Japanese inspired, like the traditional Japanese inspired stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and then outside of Godzilla, the main theme at the opening, kind of lackluster, and it's just like fill in the empty spaces kind of stuff.
I think Desplat's score is fine. Um, I find it more memorable than Junkie XL's. I feel like there is actual passion being brought into it, but it's definitely
Oh
not like
yeah,
it's definitely not like top tier Godzilla soundtracks by any means.
absolutely. It's your For me it falls into the same group of as most of Sato's scores.
Mm,
Like um I'd say it's on par with like Sea Monster or Son of Godzilla.
mm,
It's got that one memorable track, and that's about it.
yeah.
The rest isn't bad per se. It's just when you talk about the film's music, you never address anything but that main score.
Mm. Well, except for in
Which,
maybe like Godzilla vs. Godzilla.
right. Mechagodzilla, even though I was listening to it, the main sound that people, the pull, the pull, uh, that piece is actually not the main theme.
Yeah,
That's
the Anguirus
Mechagodzilla
fight.
versus Anguirus. Yeah. Um, which sidetrack when listening to the soundtrack, I kind of noticed Sato used the beginning of Ifukube's soundtrack
Hmm.
for a few of the scores for Godzilla, and it's really interesting to see where he went with Ifukube's theme.
Hmm.
Just a little thing I thought I'd throw out there that I thought when I listened to it on Spotify the other week.
Yeah, I'm very glad that Toys made them public worldwide finally.
Yeah,
It's very nice to get to
yeah, I
hear them.
agree. Yeah. Um, Going back here to 2014, I think this is kind of where we're gonna and because this is like a mini episode review retrospective thing, just kind of
Yeah.
honor 2014. And I think this is where we're going to honor it the most, and that's its impact.
Oh
What
yeah.
did 2014 do for Kaiju, for Tokusatsu, for Godzilla, for the fandom? And I'm going to let Rex go ahead and start with what he's got.
Well, to start it off, simply put, uh, Godzilla 2014 revitalized the brand's interest in the public, the brand's public interest. Godzilla went mainstream again. Even though Shin Godzilla was in production beforehand, it I'd say it undeniably got more attention thanks to 2014, and we obviously had many American kaiju movies come out after 2014 in Pacific Rim's release, and it in the fandom it just brought tons of new people to it and revitalized the interest of a lot of people. I imagine you and myself are are examples of people who love Godzilla, and 2014 would have been like a dream come true to us, seeing a Godzilla movie in theaters for the first time.
Yeah,
By all accounts, Godzilla 2014, I would say started a new generation of Godzilla fans.
I will agree to that. Looking at its legacy, 2014 did birth because beforehand you had the 10-year gap generation,
Yeah.
which got into Godzilla during his hiatus. Who grew up and grew up with Cinemassacres, Godzilla-thon,
Hmm.
um, beginning of Monster Island Buddies,
Yeah.
uh, the Toho, the classic media collection, Sony stuff,
Hmm.
98, of course.
Goji
Um,
fan.
yeah. Um, and then it seems like once 2014 hit, that's that sleeper generation essentially um, really took that to that film.
Hmm.
And then, of course, old fans went to it. Most of them, or some of them didn't like it, some of them did. But with 2014, we saw a birth of newer Godzilla fans, which is great.
Yeah.
Very good for the brand and the community as a whole, really.
Yeah.
Um,
New blood.
and we're still seeing that generation. Now, I think now that the MonsterVerse is probably over, I think that generation's about to end.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
I
it's a very interesting ride.
yeah. I mean, there'll be people who, since the MonsterVerse is more or less ending, they're gonna jump ship. Probably won't visit many other, if any, Godzilla movies. But then you also have the people that are introduced to the character of Godzilla and have fallen in love with it, and God knows who. Maybe they'll become the next kaiju experts. Just have to wait and see.
Very true, very true. Right. And I that is something really cool as the old guard is pushed out and your 80s kids and your 90s and your sleeper generation are kind of put up into that older guard. Who knows what the MonsterVerse generation could become?
Hmm.
Um, I think I could say less pretentious and not get in trouble. You know, uh, it's we I think we all can admit that the MonsterVerse isn't highbrow artwork like
Yeah.
some of the older Godzilla films are uh, held to,
Hmm.
but they're not perfect either.
Hmm.
But the MonsterVerse is not that highbrow art whatsoever. Um,
Hmm.
they're just fun films.
Yeah. And
Now,
there's
that
still
being
value
said,
to that.
oh, Right.
Even,
That's very true. It's still entertainment.
yeah, the value of watching a film is simply just to be entertained, no matter what film it is. It's undeniably escapist, inherently. And you know what? That's not necessarily a bad thing for a movie to be.
Right. Right. And I've always believed that movies are supposed to be something that can take you to that other place.
Yeah.
The magic of the movie, uh, putting you into a world full of imagination. Whatever the camera eye can take, you can see and live. Um, I don't think you watch a movie per se as much as you experience it.
Yeah.
Uh, you, no matter how good or bad the film is, you experience Godzilla 2014 as much as you experience Pacific Rim or Godzilla vs. Kong. Will put a legacy into place. Just like 98 did, it created a huge part of this fandom.
Yeah.
And it's going to linger and it's going to stay in the public eye for 20 years. And I think out of the three films, it might do that the most because of what it did. Now, because initially it was met with mediocre reactions and really positive and then really negative, and then it was like, okay, and now it's a little more positive, fluctuating, and I think it'll end being pretty well received, and people will be talking about it for a long time because it was Hollywood's second attempt at Godzilla that was very successful and somewhat true to the original characters. It wasn't pro-nuclear.
Yeah, that's true.
Listen, anytime we talk about MonsterVerse,
You have to drill that in.
Yep. Now, one thing that I think will hurt the legacy of the film is Warner's ignorance for giving us a dark, dark, dark transfer. That's garbage.
Yeah.
See, here we go.
We had
there
to mention
we go.
it.
I brought it in. Which I think it sucks because that's really limiting it. It really is.
Yeah, I mean,
but
because I've seen this film many times, and look, this film has been put on Netflix in multiple regions, and if you watch it on Netflix, the compression of watching a movie on Netflix is going to make the already dark transfer look even worse. And if you're someone watching it in the afternoon, in a house where the windows are open and the sun is putting glare on the screen, I can tell you from personal experience, you cannot watch the final act of the movie. I remember watching it with family and just barely being able to maybe see the outline of Godzilla's foot in a couple shots. And then the atomic breath scenes.
Yeah, I remember I showed it to my family and they have a big TV. And we turned out all the lights, it was nighttime, and we were watching it, and when it got to that final fight, my family was like, is there something wrong? It's just a black screen. And it's like, oh, nope, that's the movie. Dark and dark.
Yeah.
I don't think they really watched it at that point. They all just kind of got up and left.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
At that point, I can't really blame them.
Exactly, and even with the recent 4K remaster,
that disappointment.
the brights, are somewhat brighter, but the darks are really dark.
Yeah,
Like it just
that's
enhances
that's what
what they were.
happens when you only change the contrast.
Hmm. And that's going to hurt the film more and more.
Yeah,
I really hope in the future Warner looks at this and they're like, we need a new transfer. And
yeah.
they actually take the theatrical transfer and they put that on disc because that looks pretty good.
Hmm.
Um, Now, granted, we did watch a frightened version, but even then, this was a fan edit
Hmm.
that wasn't the best. It's got some problems,
Mainly just
but
being blown
if
out in the day scenes.
right, but if that's how we have to watch it, or we have to use an HDR cord on an HD TV on a 4K TV on a 4K player,
Hmm.
that's still a problem.
Yeah.
You should never restrict it to you have to watch it on a specific format to be able to enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's just limiting it.
Especially since I don't have the I don't have the 4K version of the movie. I don't even own the movie on Blu-ray at the moment. All I own is a scratch DVD. So I'm kind of screwed usually when I try to watch it because the
Yeah.
brightness on that DVD, not nice. I don't even think DVD. Does
Hmm.
DVD even? I don't think DVD can even use HDR. So,
No, no, because it's standard definition.
yeah, exactly.
And I hate that that's going to be a part of its legacy.
Yeah.
It's the dark Godzilla movie.
But in the literal
'Cause,
sense,
yeah, and it's looking at stills from what the brightness should have been. I think it's going to really hurt its legacy as it
I mean,
continues
you
to
can just
age.
watch the trailers and see how, that the trailers are considerably brighter.
Hmm.
But there's only so much footage that we have from the trailers that you could just plop on top of the film.
Right.
So you can't
And
just fix it with film.
On the Target exclusive, there's a bonus feature called Godzilla: A Force of Nature,
Hmm.
or reimagining an icon. I think it's that one. I think it's reimagining an icon.
Yeah.
And there's footage of the movie in that too, and
Yeah.
it's the dark scenes. And when you watch that, you're like, oh my, what? It's that bright?
Hmm.
It's so
I mean,
weird.
I honestly think it's also really I think it's noticeable with the day shots too, because the day shots just look really
Mm-hmm.
muted in the
Mm-hmm.
in the film itself. Whereas if you watch like the trailers, they're brighter. They're much brighter. There's some actual
Yeah.
color in them. Whereas in the current transfer,
Mm-hmm.
they're just mostly grayish.
Right. It's a very monotone
Yeah,
uh, color scheme.
yeah,
But overall, I think the film will continue down a path where I think people will appreciate it.
yeah,
They're still going to criticize that transfer
yeah.
for how dark it is, but I think 2014 um, really opened a new look into the franchise.
Hmm.
So much so that Toho took notes
Yeah,
from it for their anime trilogy,
the design.
with Godzilla's design, the Godzilla ride that they just announced and opened up,
Yeah,
and I think 2014 will be a huge part going forward.
Yeah,
This is really the film that started Godzilla resurgence in a way.
yeah,
Um, Even though, like we've established, it was in production well before, uh, it it, it still was it jump started the franchise again, and now we have a new Godzilla series that is just bursting with creativity that could go anywhere. And that's MonsterVerse, that's anime, that's Toho
yeah,
live action, that's all of it.
yeah. We're seeing a lot of variety in just how how Godzilla is used not only as a character, but just how versatile this franchise really is. They're really exploiting that, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. And I think as we continue, time will show that, and I think it can all be traced back to Godzilla 2014.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Um, that's really all I have to say.
Hmm.
Uh, again, this isn't really a review. It's kind of a retrospective. It's a taste of our review.
Yeah.
Um, Down the road, we will cover it again.
Hmm.
With facts and you know us talking for 2 hours on why it's still a garbage movie. But now's really the time to appreciate it.
Hmm.
7 years later, just acknowledge that without it, we probably wouldn't be here when it comes to our kaiju stuff. So
Hmm.
that's just something to celebrate and be appreciative about.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. We're about 40 minutes and 50 minutes into it.
Sure.
So Rex, where can people find you at?
You all can find me on YouTube at Rex Xeno, on Twitter at Rex_Xenomorph, Instagram at Rex_Xeno. I have a blog page called fatkaijublog.wordpress.com. Check it out. I've got articles on the making of Godzilla vs. Charles Barkley, an interview with Alan Maxson, aka Ghidorah in King of the Monsters, Righthead. And yeah, got I've got some other stuff, and I'm working on things at the moment.
Is Alan aware of your hatred for his movie?
Well, remember, I actually like King of the Monsters.
Oh, I haven't projected that onto you yet.
Yeah, you've projected some things on
Burn
it,
it.
but I still love them. I still love the movie.
Well, we'll have to change that.
We'll see. We'll see.
I might just stay up to help push that agenda. Oh God. Um. So hi, I'm Elijah. I'm Elijah Really Tired Thomas. Um. It's gonna be a long weekend.
Sounds like fun.
You can find me. Yeah. You can find me on YouTube at ET13 Productions, on Twitter at ET13 Productions, on Instagram at ET13 Productions, or my personal Twitter where I complain about everything that I want to, or talk about YouTube or something like that, at E Thomas 1975. Um, so yeah, check those out if you like. And a huge thank you guys for listening to this episode. Just as a reminder, we have been review bombed recently with a ton of 1-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. So I know this one's not A plus plus material, uh, but we appreciate you guys sticking around all the same. And if you could leave us a 5-star review, just say, yeah, Rex is a really cool guy. That ET's kind of weird. But he's cool. You know, just uh, bumping us up, getting us past that like 3.3 average, something like that. We would really appreciate that. Um, Now I know not everybody has an Apple device, which I don't blame you. I don't. You can tweet us and follow us on Twitter at KAIJU_CONVERS. If you don't have Twitter, you can follow us and message us on Instagram at Kaiju Conversation, or you can like us on Facebook and send us a message through that. Or if you're like me before podcasting and don't have social media, which good for you, I'm really jealous. Um, you can email us at kaijuconversation@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word. You know the drill. We'll read your reviews out. We actually have one, but I'm going to hold off for next week's episode to read it on air. And that's just to show our appreciation for giving us a 5-star review. We have a Teespring, not Teespring. We have a merchandise store that right now has T-shirts, a ton of apparel stuff with our logo, and then in the future it should have some sort of original artwork. I'm still working on those details. That'll eventually happen, or I'll just stop saying it and it'll just fade into obscurity and we'll all forget about it. And if you're interested in listening to our older episodes another way or listening to fun little shorts, check out our YouTube channel, Kaiju Conversation, and hit the bell and subscribe so you can be notified anytime we upload, because we do some bonus episodes on there, and it's a lot of fun. If you like to talk to Rex and I more and other people that relate to stuff you enjoy, check out our Discord server. As we speak, there's actually a conversation between 5 lovely individuals. That's just really, really fun and really good. Um, and we got a lot of good people here. A lot of knowledgeable people that know what they're talking about. That this is a ton of fun. So yeah, it's a great place, and honestly, I do think it is a really enjoyable place to be. If I do say so myself. Sorry, this is completely unscripted because I don't have my tablet that has everything I need to say on it. So I probably missed something. Uh, if I did, say la vie. It's very late and I'm very tired, and I want to go to bed. So thank you, Rex, so much for joining me on this short little episode. I hope it isn't too much of a disaster to edit, but it's a ton of fun, and I always have enjoyed chatting with you. So, with that, I think we're going to sign out here. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you, Rex. And please, everybody, remember, life's too short to not talk big. Bye, guys.
Bye.